Hello, Wonderhussy here in one of the most beautiful places I've ever been, okay? I'm just outside Goblin Valley State Park in the gorgeous state of Utah, hanging out next to a formation called Pinocchio Rock. Okay, you can see why they call this Pinocchio Rock. It kind of looks like a figure with a long nose poking off the top, just like Pinocchio. But guess what? Spoiler alert, I didn't drive all the way out here into this beautiful, I don't know what kind of rock this is, but it's like a weird rock playground wonderland just to look at a rock shaped like Pinocchio. No, sir, there's plenty of other interesting stuff up in them thar hills. Or gosh, I don't even know if these qualify as hills. They're more like these weird, low, rocky formations at the eastern boundary of the San Rafael Swell. Okay, I guess the San Rafael Swell is this kind of plateau farther west in Utah. And so we're at the eastern boundary of that swell where it ends at this reef. Anyway, when I'm talking about them thar hills, I suppose I should say them thar reef. There's a lot of interesting stuff up in this here reef because apparently they used to mine a lot of uranium in this area, okay? Utah, if you've ever been to Moab or down around Monument Valley, there's a lot of, or there was historically a lot of uranium mining, okay? A lot of radioactive minerals were gouged out of this beautiful ground, and well, you know how man does in his meddling ways, building bombs so big that one day he's gonna wipe himself out altogether. Well, to do all that, he needs plenty of radioactive ore, and I guess they were mining for, I don't know if it was uranium, but certainly radium in that there reef. And I think if we drive farther up this wash, we might even come upon the ruins of an old uranium or radium mining ghost town. Okay, we have arrived at the ruins of the once great shanty town of Temple City. And it ain't much to look at today. A couple 55-gallon barrels of toxic waste, some collapsed ruins of structures. But despite it not being much to look at, boy, talk about a dramatic backdrop. That's why they named this mining encampment Temple City, because it's at the base of Temple Mountain. And again, I don't know if this qualifies as a mountain in the true geologic sense of the term, and I'm not even sure what makes a mountain a mountain. Now I'm curious, I gotta look that up. But anyway, the old time miners out here, or the first settlers out here, named this formation Temple Mountain because they thought it looked like the Mormon temple in, I think, Salt Lake City. And I don't know, I mean, if you use your imagination, I guess it kind of does look like a temple. Well, we are in Utah, okay? It stands to reason that everything is going to remind these guys of temples. Anyway, I think the name city was sort of tongue-in-cheek because I don't think this was ever really much more than a shanty town, and it looks like there maybe used to be some historical information here on the side of the cabin there. Oh yeah, look. Affidavit of labor and improvements. Oh my gosh, this is interesting. This woman named Brenda apparently has filed, I guess, a mining claim for sample testing. Well, it says Brenda Uranium Queen. Wow, how interesting. Somebody just told me that over in Moab, which we're not that far from Moab, Utah, apparently there was a lot of uranium mined there as well historically, and a lot of the old uranium miners that got rich off of it ended up dying of, I guess, some kind of cancer and something related to radioactivity. And their widows are left owning all the land now, and so they supposedly call those women uranium queens, because I guess they own a bunch of property and, well, they kind of have a lot of say so as to what goes on in Moab. But I'm not sure. That's just unsubstantiated hearsay. Anyway, she puts it down as Brenda Uranium Queen, but then there's also a Vanadium King. So maybe those are just the names of the two veins that she's working. Oh gosh, I am not sure at all how this kind of thing works, but it's interesting to see. That wasn't filed that long ago. Let me see, was there a date on it? Yeah, 2023. Wow, isn't that interesting? So apparently they're still poking around in these here hills, formations, reef, whatever you want to call it, looking for, I guess, vanadium, uranium, radium? I mean, I looked on Wikipedia, and I don't have cell signal here, but what I had downloaded indicated that they were mining uranium and radium here, and apparently also vanadium. So whoever lived in this lonely one-room cabin was mining some unspeakably radioactive stuff that just might have killed him. I mean, I feel like even just mining the ore for these radioactive minerals is pretty hazardous. I know there's a big old ruins of a uranium mill right outside the town of Moab to this day, and it's got radioactivity signs all around it. So as fancy as Moab is, and as high dollar of jeepers as it caters to, woo-wee, you still got to be careful around there. As you would here as well, right across from this cabin, there's this giant shaft in the ground. I thought it was a well at first, so hi. I don't know, this is pretty big to be a well. Maybe it was, gosh, a cistern to collect rainwater? What do you guys think? Seems like collecting rainwater, or drinking groundwater for that matter, in an area where you're mining vanadium, uranium, and radium might not be the best drinking water, but I mean, I guess if you're way out here in the middle of nowhere, you really don't have much choice. It's crazy to think that all that stuff is being gouged out of such a beautiful landscape, but that's the thing, you know, uranium, radium, vanadium, those are all naturally occurring elements. You know, these things are produced by Mother Earth, and so, you know, when they talk about nuclear power being unnatural, well, it's all technically part of nature. Although I suppose you could argue that splitting atoms is not nature and is an example of man's folly at its finest. Okay, well, there really aren't too many interesting ruins to look at around here, but the landscape is really interesting because, I mean, those dead trees on that hill there, I don't know if that's mine tailings or if the ground is just, well, I guess the ground might just be that color. In this area, you can see there, yeah, there's a lot of reds, a lot of red dirt, and a lot of debris still scattered around from, gosh, they probably, no one's been living here since, like, well, I was going to say they haven't been working this in a long time, but yes, apparently Brenda's out here maintaining the road and tending to her claim, so I don't think that Temple City was really a thing for very long. In fact, from what I read online, they were mining out here off and on from like the, you know, 1860s, 1870s, and they never really found anything too good until these radioactive materials were discovered. Minerals, I guess you would call them. And then during the Cold War, that's when things really blew up, because in the Cold War, well, you know how that went. We had that space race dick measuring contest with the Soviets, and so we needed a lot of uranium, vanadium, radium, all that stuff. And so that's when the price of uranium went high enough to where guys would come out here and live in these challenging conditions, digging this stuff out of these hillsides. Oh gosh, don't listen to me. I have never taken a single chemistry class in my life, so I wouldn't know the difference between vanadium and palladium if my life depended on it. So as always, when watching these things, please take everything I say with a grain of salt and do your own research. Look, here's the dump. This thing where they dumped all their old crap, like this old stove. Oh, look, some old beer cans. Let's see what these guys were drinking back in the day. Oh, good old PBR. That's Pabst Buckshot Riddled. I think this was probably left by hunters or campers. I mean, you can see there is a campfire ring right by where I parked by that old cabin. I don't know why you would want to camp in a place where they were mining uranium, but hey, what do I know? Whoever it was drinking a lot of it, though, I'll say that. Look, here's an old car. Wow, how about that? I guess it got swept away into the wash. Maybe this was the truck they used to haul that juicy uranium ore down from the mountain and to the nearest rail sighting, I guess. Man, I'm tempted to take a souvenir, but I don't know if I want to end up growing a third boob. Oh, what's this? It looks like there used to be a bunch of notices posted on this sandstone face. Look at that. They nailed them right into the rock, but unfortunately, time has worn them all away. Wow, look at that though. This chasm or crack goes way back into the side of the mountain. Golly, I wonder if this is the adit to one of the uranium mines. They say you're definitely not supposed to go poking around in the mine adits and shafts up here because toxic gases can collect in any mine, especially out here. So I guess I'll just leave that a mystery and keep on exploring. Oh, what's this? HO21. What is that? Some kind of claim marker or something? I mean, I'm being semi-facetious, just talking about all these nukes and radioactive stuff. I'm sure there are perfectly benign industrial applications for radium, uranium, vanadium. I just don't know what they are. What's this? Oh, this looks like where they probably had some kind of hopper that they would load trucks. I mean, I don't see any evidence of any rail tracks out here, so I guess they just loaded it all onto trucks and carried it back down along that bumpy road. Oh, wow, look, there's an even better old car down there. I don't know how I missed that one. Get in, loser. We're going uranium mining. Oh, look over here. This is for sure one of the adits to the uranium mine. Oh, wow, yeah, and you can see, first of all, there's a claim hanging on the front. Somebody is apparently still working this. It's that same... Oh, this is the Vanadium King. So I guess this is the Vanadium King mine that this lady Brenda is working. But it is gated off. I'm pretty sure we can't get in there, and I don't think I would want to anyway, because number 3, look at that. Dun, dun, dun. Radiation area. Radon gas area. Caution. These uranium mines have elevated radiation levels and other hazards. Protect your health. Radon may vent outside the mines. Avoid breathing air from the mines. Ooh. I just wanted to like peek in and hold my breath. I won't breathe. I just wanted to see, like, wow, look at that. That friggin' attic goes way back there. And if you were one of those crazy mine explorers that had appropriate ventilation, like one of those super hardcore respirators, I guess you could go in there. Look, there's even more claim papers nailed to that post in there. And out front, there's a whole bunch more on this side. I mean, god dang, how often do you have to file this paperwork? And don't you ever take the old ones down? Okay, let me step away from the radon gas and keep poking around. I guess this is a really interesting area. Not to mention jaw-droppingly beautiful. I mean, this looks like the background for a Western movie. The Uranium Queen. In a man's world where only the strongest survived, she made her mark and grew a third breast. Oh man, this thing writes itself. Somebody get Julia Roberts on the phone. I think we got an Oscar winner. Oh wow, check this out. I happened to notice as I was hiking along this sort of like half-buried, well, I thought it was like an old hardened orange or lemon or something, but there was another one right by it. Like, those are like 2 halves of an old castanets. But I don't know, then I noticed there's like another one laying here, and then I thought, well, golly, there are these weird round bubbly looking things. I'll bet you anything it's just the top of one of these that popped off, and then yeah, look, it popped right off, and it's full of this weird white powder. Look at that. It's got like this, it's almost like a fruit, a rock fruit with some kind of weird center. Now, what do you suppose that is? Is it something unspeakably toxic that I probably shouldn't be rubbing my fingers all over? Probably, but I don't know. I'm curious. What happens? Like, is this hollow and full of this weird white powder? Have I stumbled upon the fabled cocaine mines of Utah? Woo-wee! Screw uranium, screw gold. I'm rich! More realistically, I'm just gonna have to do my laundry. And boil my hands. Man, it's crazy too. There's all these pipes, presumably venting noxious gases from the mines below. So it's almost like you don't want to even breathe the air above ground either out here. Yikes, I kind of want to get out of here. Okay, believe it or not, as magnificent as the ruins of Temple City are, they're not why I came out here. Okay, I actually came out here to check out a different ruin associated with someone very well known in the field of uranium, radium, and polonium. Okay, this has nothing to do with uranium, radium, or polonium, but it's pretty cool. Look at this. It's a pictograph panel painted on the side of this giant, I guess, sandstone rock formation. I'll zoom in so you can see what I'm talking about. Look at that. There's some pictographs over there, and look at this one. Okay, remember the difference between petroglyphs and pictographs is petroglyphs are etched into the rock and pictographs are just painted on the rock using ochre or whatever natural pigments the Native Americans were able to find in the surrounding landscape. So I guess for these, they just crumbled up some of that fine red dirt and painted these things on the side of this friggin' rock formation, and no telling how many hundreds of years they've been here. It's pretty impressive. Man, and if you didn't know they were here, they'd be kind of hard to spot, you know? It's just kind of a little dark patch on the sandstone, but no telling what these figures represent. I mean, maybe I spoke too soon in saying that they had nothing to do with radium and vanadium and uranium. I mean, maybe the Native Americans who lived out here knew full well about the strange properties of the minerals in these mountains, and maybe they were known as the tribe of the three-breasted women. I don't know, it's just a theory. Anyway, on the back of this sign, it does say that these Temple Mountain pictographs are significant because these are some of the largest prehistoric painted figures in Utah. According to the sign, the largest image is at present about 6 feet tall. 6 feet tall. Wow. So for reference, there's my vehicle parked in front of this cliff face. And I mean, I find it very hard to believe that those are 6 feet tall. But the sign wouldn't lie. So it must just be a matter of perspective. From down here, it looks teeny tiny. But I guess up close, the biggest one would be taller than me. Isn't that crazy? It also says that there probably used to be a lot more pictographs on this wall, but I guess the area in between that figure on the left and all those figures on the right broke away over the years due to a geologic phenomenon called spalling. I don't know. Basically, I guess the water out here is very mineral rich, and when it rains, the water gets into these little cracks and forms crystals, and eventually the crystals get big enough that they sort of bust off the exterior rock so that it flakes off in sheets. And unfortunately, I guess the panel where all these other pictographs were also got spalled off. I mean, I'm telling you, it's a word, spalled. It says the presence of several small fragments of pigment in the spalled area between the left side and the right side of the panel indicate that the area in between them was also apparently filled with petroglyphs. Petroglyphs, okay, not even pictographs. I don't know. I just thought this was worth stopping at because it's pretty impressive to think of these Native Americans living out here way before man, in his infinite wisdom, decided to go meddling about with uranium. Although, now that I think about it, maybe that's falling is what I was seeing inside that weird busted open rock with the white powdery stuff in it. Maybe that was a crystal. Anyway, let's keep going. There's one more place I want to visit before I get out of here. And it is the reason I came here in the first place. For real. Okay, now we're we're basically on the other side of Temple Mountain, where there is this really nice primitive campground. Look at that, you could camp right here in the middle of all these abandoned uranium mines. Yikes, look at that, they're warning you. Do not touch. Old mines and mining claims may contain radon, radioactive material, or abandoned explosives. Yikes, now you tell me. And then there's this really old sun-baked informational sign talking about uranium mining and how it was apparently used by the Native Americans. They used carnotite ore to create yellow paints for the murals on desert walls. I guess uranium must be in carnotite ore. And then it talks about a little gal named Marie Curie. Okay, Marie Curie. Remember reading about her back in the day in school? She discovered radium and polonium. And she did a lot of work with uranium along with her husband, Pierre Curie. Well, they were two scientists. She was actually from Poland originally. Her name actually wasn't Marie, it was Maria. But she ended up moving to France because back in her day, she was born in 1867, women couldn't just become chemists. I mean, they didn't exactly have STEM curriculums for women back in those days. So Marie came from a very forward-thinking family. Her dad was a doctor, her mom ran a boarding house, I think. Anyway, they were all about education for their girls, and so she went to Paris, France to go to school because I guess France, you had a better chance of getting a science education as a woman in the late 1800s. So she moved to France, changed her name to Marie, met a dude named Pierre Curie, married him, and that's why we know her as Marie Curie today. But yeah, she was originally Polish. How about that? Marie Curie busting all kinds of stereotypes. Who says girls can't do science and who says Polish people are dumb? She ended up winning at least 2 Nobel Prizes, and unfortunately dying of the side effects of uranium poisoning. So you're probably wondering why that sign way out here in the middle of nowhere, Utah, would be talking about Marie Curie. Well, yeah, I know it is a uranium mining area, so I guess it does make sense, but apparently Marie Curie actually came out to this area herself and supposedly even stayed in a little cabin here, although I can't imagine this is the cabin. This is kind of more of a little dugout. The doorway is barely 4 feet tall. Even I have to duck to get in here. But this would be a cozy little shelter if you really had to get by for a night or two to ride out a storm or ride out an entire freezing cold Utah winter while you were mining uranium in Temple City. Okay, I think there's another cabin around the corner where they say Marie Curie herself actually stayed. So I guess the story goes she was doing her experiments back in Paris in her laboratory, isolating radium and polonium. And again, I've never taken a single chemistry class in my life, so bear with me. But my understanding is she discovered these new elements, and to formally discover a new element, you have to prove that it can't be broken down any smaller. It is an essential element. And so she was playing around with uranium, trying to break it down into smaller pieces. And then I guess she somehow got a hold of some radium ore out here that she was trying to prove was actually its own distinct element. And so all of the radium that she used for her experiments all the way back in Paris, France, came from right here in Utah. Isn't that wild? They mined it here over in Temple City, and then they shipped it to her lab in France, and that's where she was able to do whatever it is you do to break down radium to prove that it is an element. And then she did prove it, and that's why she won, I think, her first Nobel Prize. It was her and her husband won it together for discovering radium. And then her husband, unfortunately, was killed in a traffic accident. This is terrible. Here they are working on this space age element, and her husband was crushed by a horse-drawn wagon. Those were the times they lived in, man. This was about 1906, right on the cusp of the modern era, but they still had horse-drawn wagons going through the streets of Paris. And unfortunately, Pierre was killed, but Marie kept on going in the lab, and she became the first female professor in France and probably in all of Europe. She took over her husband's science teaching job at the university, and went on to discover polonium, a second element. And she named polonium after her homeland of Poland. How about that? But anyway, the locals around here say that she wanted to see where all these high-grade radium samples that she was working with were being mined from, and she supposedly came all the way out here to the middle of nowhere, Utah, and stayed, I guess, for a few nights in this old stone cabin. I just think that's so interesting. I don't know about you, but when I think about Utah and the West, it just doesn't even compute in the same arena as Marie Curie back in Paris, France. Like, it was a big deal to travel out here back in those days. And, well, I guess this probably would have been after her husband died. So maybe in the 1920s. Well, she passed away in 1934. So I don't know. They say she came to the U.S. at least twice. So it's probably sometime in the 1920s. She was like in her 50s at that time, 60s even. So it was, you know, it was a rough, bumpy journey to get out here. They didn't have comfy Toyota 4Runners with cushy shocks back then. I don't know how she got out here, but they say she did. And she stayed in this cabin right here, tucked behind Temple Mountain. Or, I don't know, I suppose maybe it was this cabin, but I'm guessing for an esteemed scientist like Madame Curie, who, assuming my timeline is correct, by the 1920s would have already been world-renowned as a Nobel Prize winner. Well, they wouldn't put her up in the guest quarters. They'd give her the big house, right? I mean, according to that sun-baked informational sign, all the folks in this area knew the name Marie Curie, and they all knew that their husbands, fathers, and brothers were working mining ore for her experiments. And so if she really did come here, I'm guessing the town probably rolled out the red carpet and did not make her stay in a rough little shack like this, which is really only about a step and a half up from the last one we peeked in. You know what I mean? You know these Mormon ladies, they probably baked casseroles and pies and brought her all kinds of food, and everybody probably wanted to meet her and see the famous Frenchwoman that was making this area rich. So as rustic as this cabin looks right now, assuming this story is true, well, it was probably a lot nicer back in the day and was a pretty cozy place for her to stay. I don't know, it's still just a one-room cabin, and it almost certainly did not have indoor plumbing. I don't know, man. There's no proof or evidence that she actually came out here and stayed the night in this cabin. That's just kind of the local lore. And if you're anything like me, well, local lore is almost always way more interesting than the truth. So I'm gonna choose to believe it. Anyway, as you can probably hear, the side-by-siders have arrived, and well, that pretty much means the end of any clear audio for me. But that's pretty much the whole reason I came out here, is I wanted to see the cabin where Marie Curie allegedly stayed the night in the middle of nowhere, Utah. And whether or not that's true, I'm super glad I came out here, because this is an absolutely spectacular area. And now I kind of want to come back here sometime and camp. Only nowhere near this developed campground, because there's too much motor noise.